When fall comes, I get really, really excited. I love fall. It's my favorite time of the year. The days get shorter, the nights get longer, the air gets colder. You know, the holidays are coming up. Already getting excited about Halloween, already starting to think about what I want to make and eat on Thanksgiving, getting super pumped for Christmas. I love Christmas. So it's an exciting time. You know, maybe there'll be some snow in December. I love snow. I'm probably one of 2 or 3 other New Yorkers in a city of over 8 million that gets excited for the snow. I love the snow. New Yorkers don't like the snow. I'm that basic bee, September 1st, that's already putting up fall decorations. I'm in my flannel shirt and it's still 85 degrees. There's still humidity in New York. It's still hot, too hot to be wearing your flannel, but that's me. I'm excited for fall. I'm ready to go. I love doing corny things like taking my family and going out to the apple orchard, drinking hard cider, tasting the different hard ciders, eating the apples, picking the apples, apple cider donuts. Eating apple cider donuts is one of my favorite things. I mean, they're so good. Who the doesn't love apple cider donuts? Like, who doesn't? They're delicious. I have a love affair with apples. I absolutely love apples. I mean, I have a apple finger tap, for God's sakes. I love apples. I really started to get into apples when I started conceptualizing dishes for different chefs I worked for, and they would ask, okay, you're gonna make sweetbreads with apples. Well, what kind of apples are you gonna use? What do you mean, what kind of apples am I gonna use? Isn't there Red Delicious and Honeycrisp and Granny Smith? Like, what are you talking about? No, there's so many different types of apples, it's crazy. With all different flavor profiles. Tart apples, there's sweet apples, there's juicy apples, there's crisp apples, there's super florally apples, there's very sour apples. There's a lot of different flavors that come with apples and a lot of different textures. Different apples are good for different things. Some are great for making brandy and cider. Some are nice and mealy and great for a puree. Some are super sweet and crunchy and perfect in a salad. Some, like the Honeycrisp, is already on its own a perfectly balanced apple. Originally, I wanted to have a variety of dishes when I was conceptualizing this menu. A lot of different apple pairings, but I ended up with 3. I ended up with apples and cheddar, apples and foie gras, apples and pork. Really only 3 pairings for the most part. And that's because I didn't want to stop my brain from continuing in a direction with a specific pairing. I didn't want to shut that off. I wanted to go to the end of the road on that, at least the end of the road for what I'm thinking about right now. I want to explore that to the fullest, and I didn't want to shut that door. There's many more apple pairings out there besides these 3. I'll have to do many more apple tasting menus in the future to capture it all. Apple goes with so many different things. It's a very versatile fruit. Konnichiwa, fall lovers. This is an apple and foie tasting menu. Nah, just joking. There's a lot of foie dishes on here, but this is a tasting menu called Apples by Shibumi Jones, featuring my neighbor. So for this first dish, it's an amuse bouche. It's a bite-sized portion. And I had bought some pork belly that I was gonna use for a dish, and I took the skin off of it in order to braise it, and I thought I'm not gonna throw away the skin. I don't like wasting anything on an animal. I decided I was gonna make a chicharrone out of it. I'm gonna make this into a taco. It's got the crunchy pork skin. I boiled it down, scraped the fat off, dehydrated it overnight, fried it up in some safflower oil, seasoned it with some salt and some lime juice, and then I made a salad with Cortland apples and Granny Smith apples, a nice little combination, tart and sour is kind of what I was going for. Little lime juice, we got some paprika in there, some sea salt. Welcome to Apples. Here's your first course. Next course is the first apple cheddar pairing. Apples and cheddar is a very classic combination. It's a popular salad, and Spotted Pig did a version of that. And I was on the sous chef team, and I kind of really fell in love with mixing all the different types of apples in the salad, pairing it with the salty cheddar. So in this salad, I used cheddar, Cabot cloth bound cheddar, Honeycrisp apples, some Granny Smith apples, some Cortland apples. Made a mustard vinaigrette. We got some pickled mustard seeds on there, or macerated mustard seeds. Red wine deglazed, red onions on there to add a little tanginess. A little herb oil to play on the florality of some of the apples in the mix. I'm calling this gastropub salad. This salad is very different than April salad, but it does bring back memories of working at the Spotted Pig and making this salad in the fall time, my favorite season. The next dish on the menu is very simple. It's only 3 ingredients. Cortland apple slice that's encased in mild cheddar with a little sea salt on top. That's it. The idea behind this is a caramel apple that you'd get at the fair. Fall, all the state fairs start happening. What do? You go there, you get a caramel apple. So that's the idea behind this. But instead of caramel, we use cheddar. The next one comes from a very simple place as well. One thing that really reminds me of fall is apple pie. Who doesn't? I mean, apple pie is so American, super nostalgic to me. I wanted to do a savory version, so we used Granny Smith sauteed apples with some honey butter in there. We have some paprika and chipotle. We have a cheddar crisp on top, which is like the pie crust. We used a super aged sharp cheddar that kind of had some notes of coffee in there. So it's very, very nutty. This ain't your grandma's apple pie. So next dish is another apple and cheddar pairing. I didn't really stop my mind when I kind of went there with apples and cheddar. I just sort of dove in and kept going. So this is a terrine course. This is a vegetable terrine. So this is for all the vegetable terrine lovers out there. We have sweet potatoes in there. Sweet potatoes kind of mimic that in the same colors as the American cheddar cheese we've all grown up with as kids. We also have regular russet potatoes in there, and we also have all different types of apples. Thinly sliced everything, layered it all in the pan. In between each layer, we've got fresh herbs, salt and pepper. We got Parmigiano Reggiano. We got all kinds of sharp cheddars, aged cheddars in there. We got the Cabot cloth bound. We finished it off with a little bit of cream, baked it slow and low in a terrine pan, pressed it overnight, then popped it out, sliced it, and then we seared it up in the pan. The sugar from the apple and also the cheese in there kind of like caramelized and made a nice little crust. And then we just made a marjoram and sage peas stew. It adds the spiciness, a pepperiness, a nice little greenery to it, a lot of florality. Terrine course. So this is a meat terrine. This is for all my carnivores out there. I'm a major carnivore. There's 3 different types of meat in here. It's a game terrine. So we have duck breast, we have rabbit meat, and we also have pork and pork fat in there. Grinded it on a large die, made a nice little panade in there with some garlic breadcrumbs, sherry for some nuttiness, also some white wine and some salt, pink salt for color. It actually made the duck stay nice and pink. It's really pretty in there. We got thyme in there, we got savory in there, we got marjoram in there, we got all those kind of like winter herbs in there. Pistachios and prunes is like a very classic combination in a pork terrine. So we just did that here with the game because the pistachios and the prunes also go with the game meat very nicely. I didn't line the pan with any bacon and cheddar, anything, all fat. We just did the meat. I lined it in parchment paper, put it in the terrine pan, cooked it in a water bath, slow and low, then pressed it overnight, took it out the next day, sliced it open, voila, beautiful. We made it like a cherry cranberry mostarda to go with that. There's also some pickled apples mixed in there too as well. And the pickled apples are nice. It's like a kind of like a sweet and sour combination. Super duper simple, toasted bread. That's really all you need for this one. So after we've had the meat terrine, which acts as a transition from the cheddar apple pairings, and now we're gonna go right into foie gras and apples. I might have wanted to include some more pairings, but I just got kind of crazy with foie and apples, and so we just went there and we just did it. That's it. Foie gras to me definitely tastes like fall. I mean, it's too hot to have a piece of seared foie, you know, here in New York in the summertime, but once it starts getting cold at night, like a nice rich piece of seared foie with whatever you're having is so delicious, and it goes with all the fall and winter vegetables as well. So first foie dish we're using apple butter, and foie is very much like butter, so, and we have a piece of toast. It's like bread and butter to me. I cooked down a bunch of red delicious apples, which are actually some of the worst apples in my opinion. They're just like really mealy and bland and flavorless, but damn, do they make a really good apple butter. I used to use like Honey Crisps and Golden Delicious and things like that, but I wanted a really pink one, and I just wanted to play with these apples, and an incredible butter. Like, the butter is so flavorful and it's really pretty pink. On this dish, we also got some balsamic reduction, which kind of just is the acid that cuts the fattiness and richness of the foie and of the apple butter. So that's it, bread and butter. That's it, very simple. This dish, I'm calling this Thanksgiving tartine. I mean, look at it. It's basically, it's a tartine with a bunch of stuff that's like, reminds you of Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving sandwich is a very popular dish in America. Foie, which is like the meaty richness of it. You've got the apples in the bread, which is like the stuffing. You have the macerated cranberries, which is like cranberry sauce. A little bit of tarragon on there, like, you know, winter herbs. After Thanksgiving sandwich. That's it. Simple. One of my favorite basic pairings with seared foie is just Robuchon potatoes, like the really, really rich, buttery potatoes with the foie is just like so good. Fat kid snack that I love. It's a Kelly snack, that's a Shibumi Jones snack, that's a drunk snack, that is a snacks on snacks on snacks. This is a super rich puree. We've got cream in here, a little creme fraiche in here, we've got butter in here, we've got Golden Delicious apples, super rich puree, but also slightly sweet too. Foie and super rich mashed potatoes, like I'll eat that, but like Other people, you know, they like stuff a little more balanced. So I thought, let's do a little play on liver and onions. I wouldn't order like beef liver and onions. I don't really eat that. But I do like foie gras, and I do like onions, and I do like this apple puree. Just did the pickled shallots, and then we did the red wine deglazed red onion. The onions add a nice little tanginess, acidity, cut right through the rich puree, cut right through the rich foie gras. This is the best dish on the menu. I wanted this dish to taste like Christmas. So I sauteed some Cortland apples, brown sugar, some butter, some cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, those kind of winter spices. I also had some black walnuts. Black walnuts are one of my favorites. They are just super fruity and aromatic and very, very floral. They almost taste like fake apple flavoring. These walnuts are very crazy. People get kind of shocked. They've had a walnut, but they've never had a black walnut. So when they try it, whoa, this is insane. There's so much flavor. Mix that with some herbs, some tarragon, some sweet marjoram, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, and then put the foie on there, serve it with the apple. Super simple, not too many ingredients, but damn, this is the best dish on the menu. I wanted to eat more and more and more, but I only had one portion. To me, that dish is exactly what I think of now when I think of foie and apples. I just think of this dish. It's so good. It's so simple and it's so perfect. And it's perfect because it's simple. Now we're rolling into some pork apple pairings. With this dish, I wanted to kind of get away from the cooked and baked and pureed apples, and I wanted to get into like fresh apple. You know, I wanted this to be like fresh and tart and juicy. So I made a citrus puree. So I did that with the peels of Meyer lemon, Cara orange, and regular lemons. Took all the pith off, boiled them down in some honey and water. Really pretty orangish yellow. So we have that on the dish. We have an apple salad. We did a sous vide pork belly, stock and some herbs in the vacuum seal bag, and I sous vide it for 2 days. And then I seared it over high heat to get a nice little crispiness on the outside. On top of the pork belly, I drizzled on some agrodolce, which is like sugar and wine, kind of like a sweet and sour type of glaze, to add a little bit of sweetness to the pork, because then you have the fresh, super fresh tart apples and the super citrusy puree. Like a salad, like my kind of salad with like big chunks of pork in there. Chicken apple sausage. I feel like that's super basic and simple and people love it. So I just thought, why not make my own boudin blanc? I made the sausages by hand. I used chicken and pork. I didn't put any pink salt in it. I wanted it to be like that gray kind of white. I didn't want it to be pink. I wanted it to be blanc, boudin blanc. 30% pork fat in there, a little bit of pork, mostly chicken. Got some fresh herbs in there, made a nice little panade in there. Like I mixed the apples, some breadcrumbs, and some cream, put it all together, filled the hog casings. Then I poached the boudin blanc in some hard cider till it was cooked all the way through. Then I grilled it over coals. And we served that with some apple puree. We got some onions on there. We got some mustard, which typically goes with sausages. Very simple, like rustic French cuisine. That's it. going back to foie gras, but we're gonna go to mousse. I love making foie gras mousse. I love balancing the flavors. I sous vide the foie with the pink salt, the kosher salt, the pepper, and the spices. Let it cool a little bit, and then I put it in my Vitamix, added some butter in there, shallots that were deglazed with a little bit of sherry, port wine, a little bit of sugar. And the mousse to me is a little bit sweeter than, you know, like a piece of seared foie. In my mind, it goes with a little bit sweeter ingredients. That's why I put these after the pork dish, because I feel like these two dishes are like a nice segue into dessert. So I made this apple cake. I did a microwave cake. I didn't make a whole big cake. I just mixed a few ingredients together and put it in the microwave and made like a nice little apple sponge cake. These are popular. You can go to the grocery store and you can see those little containers where it's like cake for one. You just put it in your coffee mug and put it in the microwave. We just got foie mousse, we got apple butter, and we got apple cake. So this is pretty much kind of a dessert. This isn't super savory by any means. This is like pretty sweet. People have done this before where they make the apple rose and they put the foie mousse, but they also do it with pastry dough on the bottom. I didn't want something super heavy. I took a Cortland apple and a Jonah Mac apple and I sliced it very thinly, mixed it in some butter and sugar, and then I made a nice little rose, put it in a cupcake pan, baked it until it was cooked all the way through, but not browning. I wanted it to have the nice pretty red petals. Foie mousse in the middle of it, and then I just added a little agrodolce. I wanted the dish to have just one more dimension to it, so the agrodolce really did that for this dish. This is the second best dish on the menu. Red roses are my favorite flowers of all time. Last dish on the menu, this is the dessert. I did an apple cider donut. We reduced some cider down until it was super concentrated, made a donut batter with that, cut out the pieces, fried it, and then I tossed it in sugar and black walnuts. I wanted to use the ground black walnuts in the coating, so we got sugar and ground up, finely ground black walnuts. These donuts taste crazy good. They taste crazy and you're like, where's that flavor even coming from? This has so much florality to it. I did a buttermilk whipped cream with that. So the buttermilk is super tangy. It's not super sweet. There's not a lot of sugar in it. It's literally just like cream, buttermilk, and a tiny bit of sugar. But that's it. Tiny donuts.
Autumn is honestly it's a good season to me anyway. It's a perfect balance because it's not too cold, it's not too hot. And so it's good jacket wearing weather, which I'm a big fan of jackets. Like I have like a lot of jackets and hoodies. It's like the fact that you get to wear them a lot. It's pretty fun.
You're a New Yorker.
I am a New Yorker, so yeah, it is definitely like that's the favorite thing. Like, you know, we love a good jacket. Right. The thing about the fall seasons is that it's just kind of like, it's fun to make drinks at, because I call it kind of like the swing point, because you can still, like, there are people that still want like light cocktails, like mojitos, like, you know, margaritas and stuff like that, and like gimlets. But there are people that are leaning a little bit towards more so the whiskey side. So you're doing a lot more old fashions, a lot more Manhattans, Sazeracs, mulled wines. Like we're getting into that season. As it gets colder, like we want to add all that stuff in there. drink. That was Jameson, apple butter, a little bit of Angostura bitters, apple cider, and a little bit of maple syrup. We mixed that all together, basically same way that you would make an old fashioned or a Manhattan or something like that. Came out a little bit more on the Manhattan side because had that little bit more of a like texture as opposed to like that clarity, the smoothness of an old fashioned. But with everything when it came together, it turned out really, really good. I liked it. Garnish was a dehydrated apple, which we leaned a small spun sugar wreath on top of. We tried to have the wreath float on top originally, but it just sank to the bottom because it was too light. Then we decided to lean everything up on the side a little bit, and yeah, and it came out really, really good. I liked it. Like I liked the presentation, but the drink itself was also just as good. The dehydrated apple, we let it sit in the drink for it was like a good 2-3 minutes, and yeah. It just was loaded with the rest of the alcohol, and you can still taste the apple itself and then the drink on top of that. It's got like super spicy and then like alcohol flavor, so it's just like nice little pick me up. Apple Sazerac, yes. That one was a crowd favorite based on my tastings from everybody else. Yeah, basically that was more or less your basic at Sazerac. You know, we did an absinthe rinse on the glass, but instead of just basically like regular rye whiskey, we used apple whiskey, a little bit of Jameson. Yeah, Angostura, a little bit of apple cider. We used vanilla syrup to compensate because we didn't have a sugar cube. Stirred together, I expressed a flame over the drink so we can have like a lemon peel rather, so it has a little bit of extra flavor. And made Sazeracs in my day, and like that one's actually one of the better ones that I made. Yeah, it's like a good autumn afternoon drink, going into the evening. Smokey Hollow was basically our sequel and follow-up to one of the 3 drinks that I made for the previous menu with grapes. So this time around, what we ended up doing, we used chocolate mint this time from our neighbor, mezcal, a little bit of Fernet to give that little extra punch. We add a little bit of apple cider for that, again, apple texture. Instead of using sparkling apple cider, this time we used cava. So it turned out a lot better than the original one. Like messing around with mezcal, like most cocktails usually end up like super smoky on the smokier side. This one was balanced just well enough between the Fernet and the apple cider. Honestly, they cut in between and like gave it a very, very smooth texture, and like it had a small smoky finish, but it wasn't like anything overwhelming. Poison apple cocktail, hardest cocktail that we've made to date. But the weird thing is that we thought it'd be the easiest one, but it turned out it was just more. It was easy to get the color because the color was the big thing for the both of us. It was just a thing like we wanted it to look a specific way, so like we get like kind of like that poison apple feel. So fennel frond and tarragon syrup that we added in this time to get a little bit more of an extra green flavor to it. Played with the rest of the spirits that we added inside. Yeah, we added a green chartreuse, a little bit of gin, and a little bit of sweet vermouth. We also muddled some black walnuts in there. Then we added a little bit of lime juice. We shook everything up, and that one actually came out super well balanced. It's difficult within itself. Green chartreuse is just, by itself, it's a very floral liqueur. You don't want to necessarily use a lot of it, but with everything mixed together, especially with the syrup that we use, it was a very subtle flavor that came in at the very end. We lined the room with sugar glass shards rather.
Snow White, are you out there? Allow me to introduce myself. I am the Red Queen. And my dear, I believe this drink is for you. Going along with the apple theme, This drink is a poison apple. There's no actual apple in it. There is a lot of floral notes, and it represents the florality in some of the apples. The Red Queen is not evil, and this drink is not poisonous. We're just having fun here. So Snow White, enjoy this drink. It's super delicious, and it's almost like I'm actually giving you a bouquet of flowers. That's how much florality is in this drink.
Snow White, I know she ate an apple, went to sleep. She ate a poison apple at a bad party. And there were some dwarves in there somewhere, yeah.
The iceberg that sank the Titanic.
Yeah?
What's the word I'm looking for right now? Jeez, why am I blanking? Oh my god.
Well, we were doing the Smoky Grape Man.
Yeah, doing a smoky grape man,
So
but
we were doing a drink mezcal cocktails.
mezcal cocktails, yeah. No, but I'm just trying to remember.
What did I know?
What's the hell's the name? What's the name of the drink with the not the mint julep, but the, the other one?
Oh,
This is crazy.
not a mojito.
Yes, no, mojito.
Oh, mojito.
Yeah, mojito. Yeah.